Hello there. Suicide bombers have struck at the heart of Pakistan's military establishment, killing 24 people and wounding more than 60. Two explosions targeted commuters in Rawalpindi, home to the headquarters of the armed forces. And the suicide attacks have only deepened the sense of political crisis and put yet more pressure on President Musharraf. We begin our coverage with this report from Kamal Haider in Islamabad.
High alert declared in Rawalpindi after two suicide attacks early on Tuesday. The bomb blasts, less than 10 minutes apart, were well organized and lethal. The first hit ordinary commuters while the second ripped through a bus carrying Ministry of Defense employees. Two simultaneous attacks in the city of Rawalpindi, one attack taking place in a bazaar, the other attack apparently targeting a bus carrying Ministry of Defense officials in a sensitive area of the city surrounded by vital offices of the military. At this moment you can see the staff of the forensics department and explosive experts working and sifting through the area. Rawalpindi is an important garrison city on the outskirts of Islamabad and also home to headquarters of the army, known as the GHQ. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the explosions and there was swift public condemnation.
We condemn this terrorism. These people cannot be Muslims. This is a good and peaceful area. We felt safe as the GHQ is here.
Officials said it is too early to say who was responsible for the blasts.
It can be anybody. There are so many anti-state elements and agencies working.
The country has recently seen an upsurge in attacks targeting security and military personnel. The latest attack comes just days before the return of Pakistan's exiled former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and just months before the general elections. The incident here will add further tension to an already worried population.
That was Kamal Haider with that report. He's live also in Islamabad for us now. Kamal, the Information Minister called this an act of organised people. Is there any indication yet of who these organised people may be?
Well, the government always says that they know who did it. However, you are probably aware that this has been going on for quite some time, and it has been going on in Islamabad, which is the capital city, and now Rawalpindi, which is, as you mentioned in the report, that indeed that is the place of the military's headquarters. So these attacks are getting closer and closer to the seat of power.
So in that sense, Kamal, if we're talking about attacks moving out across the country, we were used to it a lot in the North Waziristan, now spreading out across the country, the chance of a real overriding link between all these attacks, is that quite high then?
Well, obviously there has been a lot of resentment against Pakistan's involvement in the war on terror. As an ally of the United States, it is pitting Pakistan's military forces against its own people who always have been saying that they're not happy with the way the Americans have been conducting this war, killing tribals, and then the military itself dealing with the Red Mosque issue, which many people will tell you was an overreaction by the military itself. So a lot of resentment remains within the country against the military, but the military also realizes that it has to reach some sort of a settlement and try to defuse a crisis that could spiral out of control if not contained.
So when you mention America there, Kamal, is that to say as much as a warning for President Musharraf, it's almost a warning for the United States as well about their involvement in the area?
Absolutely. It must be remembered that on several occasions Americans have attacked positions inside Pakistan, killed innocent people, and in the context of the tribals, these are acts which are unforgivable as far as the local population is concerned. Pakistan has been put under tremendous pressure by the Americans in spite of the fact that it has done a considerable amount of work in trying to restore order in the tribal areas. But the demand from Pakistan has always been do more, and now it is reaping the results of doing more.
Just finally, Kamal, the broader political situation in Pakistan, where is that at the moment, particularly between, say, President Musharraf and Benazir Bhutto?
Well, tonight you have the ministers of the government saying that a deal is very close at hand with Benazir Bhutto in the UAE, where presidential aides are meeting the former Prime Minister. But within the country, there are very critical reservations as far as the ruling party is concerned. the heads of the ruling party, Chaudhry Shujaat Hussain of the Pakistan Muslim League, is right now in a meeting with the president. The president obviously would be trying to convince them that they must go along with this deal. So quite a bit of opposition from within the ruling party, and then also the prospects of Nawaz Sharif's return. So a lot of political uncertainty for Pakistan in the days and weeks ahead.
All right, always good to talk to you. Kamal Haider there live in Islamabad. Thank you. Let's move to Iraq, where the appeals court has upheld the death sentence against Ali Hassan al-Majid. You probably know him as Chemical Ali. He was convicted of organising and directing a campaign of mass murder against Iraqi Kurds in the 1980s. The appeals court has said the sentence would be carried out within the next 30 days. And that decision comes on the same day a fractious Iraqi parliament reconvened in Baghdad after a summer break. The United States is urging lawmakers to take up two key issues it considers benchmarks for progress in Iraq: allowing former members of Saddam Hussein's Ba'ath Party back into positions of power, also a law that provides for a fair distribution of oil revenues. But it appears the divisions remain deep. On their first day back, the Parliament adjourned to consider 10 new bills. Those so-called benchmark laws were not included among them. Now, in the next few hours, the American senators will hear details of a key report which questions George Bush's optimistic assessment of the war effort in Iraq. A draft of the report by the Government Accountability Office was leaked to the media last week. It said the president's strategy is failing to produce results, and it contradicts findings by the White House released in July that said Nouri al-Maliki's government was doing well. Let's get more from Viviana Hurtado.
The GAO report says that Iraqis have met only 3 of the 18 so-called benchmarks that measure political and military improvement in the country. It especially questions the White House claim that security in Baghdad has improved. In fact, the report says violence against the Iraqi people remains unchanged. Iraqi forces are no more prepared today, and Shia militias have infiltrated security forces. The leak was orchestrated by an official who, according to the Washington Post newspaper, fears the official report will be watered down and given a positive spin under pressure by the Pentagon and the White House.
Prime Minister, thank you.
And if the president's visit to troops is any indication, the administration has launched a public relations offensive ahead of General David Petraeus and Ambassador Ryan Crocker's testimony before Congress next Monday, and the White House's own assessment of its Iraq strategy.
They're going to say that they're making progress, there's still a good ways to go, and they need more time, so we need to stay the course.
This congressional report is one of many released as the Democratic Congress gears up to call another vote on legislation ordering most troops out by the spring. Viviana Hurtado, Al Jazeera, Washington.
For nearly 3 years, one Palestinian village has been the focus of weekly demonstrations and, at times, violent confrontations between protesters and Israeli soldiers. But now the demonstrators are celebrating a big win in their battle after the High Court ordered the Israeli government to reroute the separation wall. Israel started building this 680-kilometre-long wall along the West Bank 5 years ago, saying it's necessary for security. But as you can see, the white line is the border of the West Bank, the green line is the actual wall. It cuts into West Bank territory. And in the case of Bilin, just north of Jerusalem down there, it actually cuts right through the village. Residents say they're being kept from their fields and orchards because they're on the other side of the barrier. But on Tuesday, the Israelis were ordered to demolish, reroute and rebuild that section of the wall. Our Jerusalem correspondent Jackie Rowland says the court's decision is a significant symbolic victory for the Palestinians.
So here it is, hundreds of acres of agricultural land, some of it planted with olive trees. Land which Israel seized 2.5 years ago to build its separation barrier, and land which today has been given back to the people of Bilain. Now, the army has been told to go back to the drawing board and come up with a new route for the barrier. This will take a few months, so the barrier won't be coming down straight away, but the Supreme Court has ordered that the people of Bilain must be given immediate access to their land. They must be able to get across and tend to their olive trees, and things they haven't been able to do for more than 2 years now. Bilain itself is actually a very small village, only a few hundred people. There are houses up on the hill here behind me. But this small village has really become a symbol of resistance, popular resistance against the building of the West Bank separation barrier and against the confiscation of land by Israel.